Good morning. So in my quiet time with the Lord this morning, He put it on my heart to share my testimony, especially of what's gone on with me in the last 24 hours. There's a little more to it than that. I feel like it began about 2 weeks ago now. So I've been a part of His kingdom and a believer in Jesus since I was a child. Didn't really walk closely with Him or pour into learning about Him personally until He met me in my brokenness when I was a brand new mom, when my son Austin was, I'd say, no more than 3 months old, in a crummy little apartment on the east side of town that my ex-husband and I were living with his brother in. I had a radical encounter with the Lord where He personally connected with me and showed me that I was forgiven. Excuse the airplane. We live in a flight path. It's great because we have awesome views of these cool airplanes and jets and all the things. But sometimes we have a little bit of noise to contend with. Anyways, the Lord met me in my brokenness and spoke truth and life into me at 19, addressed insecurity, addressed sin that I had built my resume up pretty well throughout my teenage years. And my self-esteem was affected from it. My sense of worth, just everything about me was in a really fragile place at that time. And that was my first, really powerful encounter with the Lord on a personal level that I can recall. And it was a changing point in my life. The thing about human nature is that, we all have bents for certain things and in our personalities and, things that we're drawn to. Some of it has to do with trauma from our past. Some of it has to do with things that have happened, choices we've made, what have you, regardless. But the love of the Lord is constant and it is faithful, and through all of our choices and all of our seasons, whether we're walking close with Him or choosing to drift or be distracted by other things, or maybe not even prioritize that part of our life, He's always there, in the good and the bad. And so a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a while, we were talking at a party. Our boys went to school together and we were kind of comparing notes since they graduated a year ago, and I shared with her some of the struggle. She shared with me some of her struggle, and not really struggle, I would say, and not certainly just about our boys, but just our conversation turned to things of a spiritual nature. And I had shared with her that I had been in this really dry season in my personal walk with the Lord. For example, things that I used to highly prioritize, like starting every day in the Word and in prayer, and even physically going to church, being a part of a women's Bible study, things that I had valued and prioritized for many years in closer seasons. I really had let go or abandoned to the busyness of work, working multiple jobs, just demands of the season that my husband and I have been in for the last few years. And anyways, the next day she shared with me 4 messages from an incredible human being by the name of Jamie Winship. I'll get into that another time. But they have radically changed my thinking, opened my eyes to one of the biggest pieces is the true identity that God has assigned us in His kingdom as individuals versus the false identity that the enemy has caused us to buy into for various reasons. It could be choices we've made in the past, unforgiveness for ourselves or toward other people that we just have not dealt with or holding on to or haven't healed from. So lots of different reasons that we have a false identity, but the false identity is the lies the devil wants us to believe about ourselves, other people, our neighbors, our coworkers, other people especially, and I'm finding even about ourselves that we're not even really aware that we're buying into, and they form a paradigm of what we do and don't do, the things we do and don't say, and they affect our relationship and the depth of closeness that we actually can get with the Lord. And so I have been pouring into, I'll tell you, I was so dry in my faith that it has been like drinking from a fire hose, and I cannot get enough of it. And I'm so grateful for this friend. So don't ever think that the impact that you might have by something small like that, like sending a text of something or posting something on Facebook, I'll get back to that one, isn't significant, because God does amazing things through little things and seemingly insignificant things. Anyways, I can talk forever. I'm going to try to get this shortened up. But my company that I've been with and the building that I have worked for almost 6 years now has been acquired again. This is the second time now in just over a year that that's happened. So I made it through 2 management changes, and this is the third. Yesterday I went into work and was completely blindsided with being let go from my job. And I have to tell you, in the last couple of weeks, I've been starting out every morning getting back into the Word. And a couple things I learned from Jamie's messages is to every day ask the Lord, what do you want me to learn? What do you want me to do? What do I need for today? And listen. And I'll tell you, that is powerful and life-changing. And the Lord speaks to us in so many ways. People, I think, sometimes think like, I can't hear the Lord. God doesn't talk to me. Well, because we're thinking in our flesh, like we hear with ears. We speak with mouths. And yes, God does talk like that to some people sometimes, but I don't think he usually talks like that, at least not to me. Maybe to you, maybe to someone else, and that's cool. That's awesome. And he has talked to me with words before. Whole nother story. Anyways, God often speaks to me through nature. He speaks to me through perfectly orchestrated timing of things or something that will happen where I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, that was you. Like I don't believe in coincidence. Our God is a God of perfect timing. For example, Facebook, hot topic these days, controversial. We've got people over here screaming, oh, you righteous Christians, if you really didn't want to put money, if you really cared about the things you say, you wouldn't be on Facebook because Facebook funds abortion and blah, 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 blah. Condemnation from the world, accusation from the world, all the things. We're called hypocrites because we participate in some of the vessels that are run by people that don't have good intentions for humanity in the world or whatever. And I call BS on that. And this is why. I have long known and felt that Facebook, for example, and certain types of social media are just tools to connect people with truth. And in this culture we're in today, there's a lot of confusion about what is true and what is false. Whole nother topic. However, I have long known in my spirit that my Facebook in particular is a means of connecting people with the Lord and sharing how he works in my life. Not necessarily in my life, but and it's also been a journal and a diary for me. So like, I will post things sometimes that really are just for myself, but I want to have it as a reference, or I want to make sure, because I don't scrapbook. I don't take the time to do all those things. I don't even know if people do that anymore. But anyways, so I primarily use it for those two things. Anyways, I can't tell you how many times I will look back at my Facebook memories and something I posted years ago is so exactly pertinent for that day that I'm going through. And yesterday that happened again. If you look at my Facebook wall, I actually copied and pasted from a memory a quote or a little passage about Walt Disney getting fired in 1919. And the end all of it was that your destiny is not shaped by those in the world who serve the world or lie about you. They don't have any control of what's next for you. They don't have any control of what God has assigned in your identity for you to accomplish in this world for His kingdom. So as I looked in my Facebook memories yesterday morning, after I went home, tail between my legs, had just been let go from my job, I'll keep my opinions about that to myself. I know one thing is that the Lord vindicates, and that gives me peace. But the funny thing is, I look at my memories and I just laugh because I'm like, okay, Lord, only you knew that on this day in 2024, all these years later, that would be a message that I needed to be reminded of in that moment. So it just makes me giggle and it just makes me laugh. The other thing is, yesterday morning in my prayer time, the Lord led me to look at Psalms 139. And in Psalm 139, I'm going to read a couple of passages, the parts that really leaped out at me and ended up helping me yesterday. He says in Psalm 139:1, "O Lord, you have searched me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord." He goes on to say in verse 16, "When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." So ordained is a word that I always associated with being like a minister or pastor, because that's usually the context that you hear that word. And I looked it up, and another meaning of the word ordained is prescribed or determined. All the days of your life before even one of them comes to be were already prescribed or determined from the Lord. And I learned years ago that the sovereignty of the Lord is this: God has a permissive will of the things that He allows to happen to us, and He has a directive will, the things that He declared would happen to us. For example, what family you were born into, what color your hair would be, what color your eyes would be. So in God's sovereignty, nothing happens without it being a part of His will. And that can be very hard to wrap your head around when you're going through hurt, a trial, a season, a death, a catastrophe, things that don't make sense, things that are extremely painful. In all things, the Lord is working for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And Jamie Winship taught me not to ask why, God, even though our flesh is like that. We want to know why. We may never know why on this side of heaven. He said, ask, what do you want me to learn from this? What do you want me to do, Lord? And listen to what He has to say. So, long story, but I really felt led this morning to give my testimony. God gave me a supernatural peace yesterday and a grace that definitely is not my normal flesh nature, to sit through being let go of my job yesterday. And I will tell you, I truly believe if it were not for what He began a work in me 2 weeks ago through my friend, the vessel, I wouldn't have been prepared, and I wouldn't have been able to handle that with grace as He calls me to do. So He fully equips us and gives us everything we need to navigate and walk through anything that comes our way in this life, expected or unexpected. He is always there. There's not a place He is not. There's not a moment that He is not with you, right there, accessible by you. Not when you're sleeping, when you're driving, when you're getting offended by somebody, or when someone's telling lies and accusations to you and you're helpless to really do anything about it. God is there. And when he closes a door, he has another one. He goes before us. He is behind us. All the days of our lives were ordained before one of them came to be. So I have had this peace that passes understanding ever since yesterday morning when that happened. I have no fear about what's next for my family, for my husband. I'm not worried about our finances. And that was a significant income loss with no warning in one day. But I know God's got us. I'm actually extremely excited to see what he has next for me, what that looks like. I'm ready to receive whatever that is that he has. And it's actually a very exciting time at this point. He's dealing with the hurt of the loss for me, because one of the things, I see my work as a mission field. I know that what I do as a job is more than a paycheck. It's about relationship. It's about connecting with people. It's about being salt and light to the world. It's about having conversations with people, the lowly and the broken. And what God's been teaching me about my identity in the last 2 weeks is that I am a messenger and I'm a lover of the broken. Those are the things that he keeps putting on me. I've been pressing into him, asking him, what is my identity in the kingdom? What is that, Lord? And he is faithful and he is answering. So I just want to encourage you with this story. I want to tell you that no matter what you're going through today, he is there with you. Please ask him, what do you want me to learn? What do you want me to do with this? And then listen and be open to how he's communicating with you and how he's talking with you, because he's beautiful and awesome and funny. And I hope you come to know him personally. So be blessed, be well, and hopefully we'll talk soon.